There's a particular kind of quiet that happens right before someone calls you by the wrong name. You can feel it coming half a second early, the way you feel weather changing before the sky does anything about it. I felt it that morning before she even opened her mouth. I'm 66 now. Patricia and I have been married 17 years. Both of us started over later in life. Both of us carrying someone else's absence into the marriage. She was standing at the kitchen counter in her blue robe, holding the coffee pot like she'd forgotten what it was for, and she looked right at me and asked if the paper had come yet. She called me James. James was her first husband, gone since 1999, 27 years now. I've known that name longer than she's forgotten which one of us it belongs to. I stood there with my hand still on the cabinet door, and for a second I didn't move at all. Then I said, "Not yet, hun. Should be here soon." I didn't correct her. I've learned slowly what that costs and what it doesn't. It wasn't the first time, but it was the first time I answered instead of flinching. The gatillo was small, just the coffee pot, the light coming in flat and gray through the window over the sink. February light, Ohio light. Patricia's always made the coffee first thing. 40 years of habit between her and James, then 17 more with me. That morning she poured grounds into the filter twice, didn't notice, and I watched her hands do it without saying anything. Denise, our daughter, had warned me on the phone the week before. "Dad, the doctor said mornings might be harder for a while. Don't push her too hard on what's real." I hadn't understood what that meant until I was standing 3 feet from my own wife, watching her look at me and see somebody else's face where mine used to be. The kitchen clock ticked. She was still waiting on my answer about the paper. "Should be here soon," I said again, quieter, and reached past her for 2 mugs instead of 1. I almost said it. I want to be honest about that. I almost said, "Patricia, it's Gary. James has been gone a long time." The words were right there, sitting behind my teeth, the way they'd been sitting there every one of the 6 or 7 times this had happened since the diagnosis. Some old instinct in me still believed that if I just said it plainly enough, gently enough, something in her would click back into place like a key finding a lock. I set the mugs down instead, poured the coffee. Didn't look at her too long because I didn't trust my own face not to give something away. Not anger, nothing like that, just a kind of tiredness I didn't want her to have to manage on top of everything else she was already managing, wherever she was that morning. "Cream's in the fridge, hon," I said, like I always did. She smiled at that. Small, easy, the same smile she's had since before either of us knew what a diagnosis was. I held on to the smile instead of the name, so I let the morning be hers. We sat at the same table we've sat at for 17 years, scratched oak, one leg shorter than the others, propped up with a folded piece of cardboard neither of us has ever gotten around to fixing. She talked about a trip she and James had once taken to her sister's place in Springfield. Some story about a flat tire on Route 68 and a farmer who helped them for free, wouldn't take a dime. I'd heard a version of that story before, years back, when she still knew whose hand she was telling it to. I didn't correct a single detail. I said, "Sounds like he was a good man for doing that," and meant it, because he was. I'd met James's photograph in her old albums 100 times. A stranger I'd come to feel oddly grateful to. The man who'd loved her first so I could love her after. Her hand found mine on the table without her seeming to notice she'd done it. I didn't move. I just stayed. Coffee going cold. February light stretching slow across the oak. Denise came by that afternoon, the way she does most Sundays, dropping off groceries and pretending it's not a wellness check on both of us. I told her about the morning while Patricia napped in the front room. Denise went quiet in that particular way she has, her mother's daughter, and then asked the question I'd been asking myself since 7 a.m. "Does it bother you, being called his name?" I thought about lying, telling her no, it doesn't touch me at all. But Denise deserves better than that, and so does the truth. Some mornings, I said, not because of him, because of what it means she's losing. James never did anything to me. I'm not competing with a dead man for my own wife. Denise squeezed my shoulder on her way to check on her mother, the same gesture Patricia's used on me 1,000 times over 30-plus years, working with kids at that elementary school. Some things get passed down without anybody teaching them on purpose. I stood in that kitchen a long while after she left, doing dishes that didn't need doing, letting my hands stay busy so my head could catch up. By evening, Patricia was steadier, more herself the way she often is once the day's worn the sharp edges off. Whatever the morning stirred up. We ended up on the back porch, the one I built the summer after we got married, looking out at a yard that's mostly gone to seed, since I stopped being able to keep up with it the way I used to. She was quiet a long time. Then she said, without looking at me, "I said something wrong this morning, didn't I?" Not a question, really. More like she'd caught the edge of it, the way you catch the tail end of a dream slipping out of reach. I didn't lie to her, but I didn't hand her the whole weight of it either. "You were just thinking about old times, hun. Nothing wrong about that." She nodded slow, like she was deciding whether to believe me, then reached over and took my hand the way she does most evenings, thumb moving once across my knuckles. Small gesture, same as always. I sat very still, the way you do when you don't want to startle something back into hiding. I almost let the evening close there, quiet and unremarkable, the way most of our evenings do now. Then she turned her head and looked at me. Really looked, the particular way she used to look at me across a diner booth back when we were still new to each other, still learning each other's coffee order and which stories got told twice. Her eyes cleared in a way I've come to recognize, brief as a match catching before it goes back out. "Gary," she said just that, my name, not his. "You put that cardboard under the table leg wrong again, it still wobbles." I laughed, actually laughed out loud, the porch boards creaking under me, because in 17 years, she has never once let that table leg go unmentioned. And here she was, mid-fog, still keeping score on my carpentry. "I'll fix it tomorrow," I told her. "You said that in March," she said, and squeezed my hand once, firm, unmistakably hers. Then the moment passed, soft as it came, and she was somewhere else again, a minute later, humming something under her breath. But I'd had it. That was enough. I've thought a lot about what people mean when they say somebody isn't really there anymore. I don't think that's true, not the way folks say it. I think she's there. I think she's just standing in different rooms of the same house most days, and some mornings I have to go find her wherever she's ended up. That night on the porch didn't fix anything. She called me James again 2 days later and probably will again before the week's out. I've stopped keeping count the way I used to, back when I thought counting would somehow prepare me for what's coming. What I've learned instead is smaller than that, and harder to explain to anybody who hasn't lived inside it. Staying isn't about getting her back to where she was. It's about being there for whoever she is on any given morning, James's wife, or mine, or somewhere in between, and letting that be enough, because it has to be. If you're doing this for somebody right now, I hope you know that answering yes, dear, isn't giving up on them. Some mornings it's the truest thing you can say. These days I keep 2 coffee mugs by the pot every morning before she's even up, the way I've done for years now, except lately I've started leaving a 3rd one out sometimes too. Old habit I picked up without quite meaning to. Some part of me still setting a place for a man I never met, but somehow owe a debt to. Denise noticed it last month, asked me about it gently. I told her it wasn't sad, not really, just honest. James loved her first. I get to love her now, in whatever shape now takes. I fixed the table leg, finally, back in April. Real fix, not cardboard. Patricia doesn't remember the wobble was ever there to begin with most days, but some mornings, rare ones, she'll run her hand along the underside of the table like she's checking, out of old habit, and I'll watch her find it steady and not say a word about why. I still make 2 cups most mornings, sometimes 3. Either way, I stay at that table until she's ready to tell me who I am. Some mornings I still catch that same quiet before she speaks, that half second of weather changing. I've stopped dreading it the way I used to. I've started thinking of it less like losing her and more like being handed a door I didn't know was there, and choosing every single time to walk through it instead of standing outside knocking. She called me James again this past Tuesday. I poured the coffee, asked if she'd slept all right, let the morning be whoever's morning it needed to be. Then, halfway through breakfast, she looked up at me over her cup, that particular clearing in her eyes, and said my name like she was setting something down she'd been carrying a while. "Gary," she said, "you're still here." "Every morning, Han," I told her, "every single one." She went back to her toast like nothing had happened. I sat there a long moment longer than I needed to, coffee cooling in front of me, thinking that maybe that's what 40 years of loving somebody, in whatever order it comes, actually adds up to. Not being remembered every day, just staying anyway.